Hi, my name is Kevin and I collect old irons. One thing that antique collectors should do, and I don't care what it is you're collecting, antique collectors should visit other collections of their general description. Kate and I have visited maybe a couple of dozen iron collectors in the United States and some other countries as well. And for this video, we thought what we would do is give a tour of the Old Iron Inn collection. And since this is a walking tour, we're going to try to figure this thing out. So the reason that you and we should visit other iron collections is because we want to see not just the irons, but we want to see how these are displayed, and we want to see the larger context. That is the ephemera and what we sometimes call the go with the irons. And so let's start here at our front door, and I will from here go to something we just recently bought. And this is a store sign, an interior sign for presumably a laundry shop. The laundry shop listing the prices for all the various garments that they iron. The provenance of this is unknown. We don't know where it came from. But if you look at the list, you'll see several things such as BVDs. That's an abbreviation from underwear. And union suits. Those are long johns, as we call them now. And the prices and this terminology leads us to believe that this might be from the early 1900s. Okay, so let's go inside. First thing I have to do in northern Maine is close the door. We are in a cold climate. And let's start by talking a little bit about the collection in general. The collection has about 500 full-sized irons, maybe 30 or more toys. I am interested in sat iron heating devices, maybe 30 or 40 there. And I have about 200 trivets, mostly of sat iron shape and size. And there's also I have maybe 200 pieces of ephemera, trade cards and whatnot. And I also have a philosophy that I shouldn't have things that I'm not displaying. Now, I do have things in storage and so forth. But by and large, I'm trying to keep within the resources of room that I have here. Kate says that I'm already pushing that, and there's truth to that. What I do is on this floor, we have two rooms in which irons are displayed. To my right is the living room, and the living room has about half the total collection. And then I have a dining room with some cases there. There are also 3 bedrooms, each of which has some irons, and a landing has some irons. And again, our emphasis in this video is to be talking about the displays and the things that we have on the walls that expand the presentation of the iron story depicted here. So, okay, most of my irons are on the periphery near the walls. That's for load-bearing issues, especially in the corners. So we'll walk to the 4 corners, this in the next room, and in the wall here, I have a case, and the case here is, I like slant front cases where you have larger amounts of room at the bottom and smaller amounts of room at the top. I've gone through several of these cases over the course of time. The problem here, though, is that the doors are in the back. And this is a case that has across the top fluting irons, and then there are some boxed, mostly travel irons, and then there's various of my sat iron heaters, including natural gas sat iron heaters, which are more volume and are at the bottom. The problem is that, again, the entrance is at the back, and pulling this out, I have to pull this out if I'm going to put anything in or take anything out, and that's quite a big endeavor. It takes me and another person or two to wedge it out and then get in behind the case. And you might notice at the top, and this goes all the way around, is a collection of flat iron shaped trivets. There's about 170 in this display here. We talked about that, and we must spend some more time on trivets shortly. Now, going into the corner, you'll see a piece of iron artwork. I do not have much in the way of original artwork. Have picked up a piece here and there. You might also see that I have a cylinder playing gramophone, which is another interest of mine. I have 4 of those altogether. And we have a corner display. Here I have an étagere display of fluting irons at the top, combination irons, slug irons, and irons with detachable handles. And these, by and large, are most of the collections I have in each of these categories, with a few more scattered around. And in the corner, I have a very nice corner case with some larger golfers and fluting irons at the top. And then within is a lot of the smaller, more focused displays, which include my millinery irons, flower irons, some of the polishing irons, the scissor irons, and other scattered things that are relatively small and sort of half displayed and half stored there. And then if you're interested, down here is my collection of travel irons, including my travel iron suitcase, or suitcases now. And we'll go over here, and here's my displays of smaller irons, also my working area for sorting out for some of these exhibits. And we will now, walking to the side wall here, again, another cylinder player up there. This is a very large curio cabinet, having some of the heavy irons at the bottom, some interesting Taylor irons, and then the detachable handle sleeve irons I dealt with in my most recent video, and then a shelf that has a lot of odds and ends, the figurines, some Taylor weights, and some other things. And then the top shelf is most of my collection of electric irons. And to continue the process, notice I'm trying to keep as many things in glass cases as I can. There's limits there, of course. Here in my corner is a nice narrow corner cabinet. Doors open at the front, which is good. And this is hat irons, irons for gentlemen's hats. And then as I go across what is the back of the room, facing the back of the house, but also the fireplace, which has a pellet stove. And we've all seen this presentation in our very first video and bits and pieces onwards. This particular environment is where we've had maybe hundreds of guests over the years who want to have pictures of us, and we get a picture of us standing in front of this display. The display shows various irons, some of the more interesting irons across the top, and then we have small irons, gentlemen's hat irons, polishing irons, fluters, and rotating irons. And again, you can look at the various particular videos and see each of these in greater detail. And then going to the last corner, as we walk around this room, I have a large display of fuel irons, those being gasoline, natural gas, coal, and mixed. And at the bottom, you can't see this very well perhaps in this rendition, some of the larger Taylor irons and some of the iron heating devices. And with that, I'm going to walk out of here. This is our sign-in book and some of the irons that we have there. And with that, we have done what is the major iron displaying room in the house. Again, about 250, almost 300 irons altogether if you count them all up. More than 150 trivets. So probably altogether, maybe almost 500 pieces. I should say some of the words about some of the displays that we've sort of walked around. Here is a display of trade cards. This again is in the living room. We have several trade card displays. This is a metal sign from France exhibiting a sat iron. And here we have two photos of advertisements we have that flank the display above the pellet stove. So, finished with the living room, we will go across to the dining room. I have 4 substantial displays here, plus a smaller display or 2 in this dining room. This is, of course, where we have the breakfast, and we've had, by a rough count, 10,000 guests in here sometime or another over 32 years. This is a very long-lasting bed and breakfast. And we'll start with a very nice case we just installed in the last couple of years. This is some of the more interesting irons in the collection. Lighted case, we inset it into a wall, it's set into a closet. Again, you've seen these cases in various of our previous talks, especially about fluting irons. So I'm going to show you two cases of fluting irons. The case here, mostly more of the hand fluters, again, larger fluting machines at the bottom. And here is a second case. We have very common discussions with these to guests. There are always a few irons on the table, so I can show, as questions might point to, a coal iron or a gasoline or a detachable handle iron, Mrs. Potts iron. Those are readily available. We have actually recruited a couple of iron collectors here in this household. And then behind me here, underneath the clock, is a small display of Mrs. Potts memorabilia, cards, small irons, and so forth. And I will now walk around. We have a little bit of a gift shop here. Few irons for sale. We're not dealers by that matter, but and by the way, if anybody's looking for some iron to broaden their collection, we oftentimes have extras. I will show you a case. The case here is actually souvenir glass pieces from northern Maine. At the very top, we have the iron that is our mascot. I bought this in Vermont. Gosh, many years ago, 40 years ago, probably. And a couple of other irons. We have also, and let me again show you the ephemera that we have on display. Those include this framed image, and this is the safety gasoline iron. Again, safety is an interesting word because in the time when this iron was made, 1930s, electric irons were seen as being more dangerous. We also have a display here of a monitor iron. In this corner, we have the display of fluting iron trade cards. Of course, we've recently done a talk on those. And I might point, because somebody's going to be asking about this, the image we have at the top here is what I study scientifically. These are microscopic fossils from the bottom of the ocean called silicoflagellates. And about them, I am far more knowledgeable than I am about irons. And finally, near the small case with souvenir glass, we have two displays of ephemera. On the left, I have a couple of sad iron heater trade cards that are quite unusual. And then one of us, maybe my pride and joy amongst my ephemera, is a full-size ad for the Susan R. Knox sad iron heater and the other devices that she was manufacturing in her own little company, apparently, in New York in the late 1880s. Okay, I'm at the landing at the top of the stairs. In the upstairs part of the house, we have 3 bedrooms with private baths. We have a 4th bedroom we use primarily for storage. And in each of these bedrooms, there are some irons. We'll see a little bit of these as we do a general tour. Again, our particular emphasis is on some of the things that we have on the walls. One of the things is about this house is a living house. We live in a finished basement. It's also a business, bed and breakfast. We have guests upstairs, breakfast downstairs, and so forth. And we also have a variety of interests. So competing with the irons are Kate's collection of books and my interest in Abraham Lincoln. This is the case of books and other materials. And you can walk into, we're not going to show off the Lincoln room, which is what we use for storage. And then if you look at the top here, you have on the top of the bookcase, we have some smaller diversity of irons, and we have over here a nice Victorian piece of furniture used to display what we have in general for European irons. The ephemera room, of course, is named after a microorganism and is decorated with fuel irons. This is the rose room. This room exhibits very few irons, but the irons are irons with detachable handles by and large. We do have a display dedicated to Mrs. Potts, and we also have a interesting newspaper page from the mid-1800s, which has a display showing some of the early trade cards. I don't have too many of these early paper trade cards, but this display gives you a sense for these. and this was bought at a political auction some while ago. We also have this interesting display on electric irons from the 1930s, 1940s, picked up at one of the Pitco auctions. And this display of cards that exhibit women who are ironing or otherwise working with irons. Exiting the Rose Room, I will walk across into the Old Iron Room. Just outside the Old Iron Room, we have again, the competition between books at the bottom and irons at the top, with 3 shelves of hand floaters. And we are in the Old Iron Room. The Old Iron Room has a diversity of irons, including a variety of European irons. In the Old Iron Room, we have this asbestos sat iron ad on a double sheet out of a magazine, and which we've framed and put on the wall. We also have a display of trade cards from the Enterprise Manufacturing Company. We also have a still life piece of art that was done for us by an artist who bartered, giving us a painting for several nights stayed here. Next to that, we have, this is a print of a piece of artwork by Sir Faulkner, which shows a lot of trivets. We found this at a shop downstate, and in doing the research for this talk, I've discovered that the artist herself, now deceased, lived in Aroostook County. So this is almost from someone who's almost local to us, who found this scene and painted it. And then finally, we have, this is a print of Roger Fairbrother, an artist and collector of irons, and now deceased, I'm sorry to say, in the United Kingdom. As usual, please like and subscribe. And we love to have visitors here at the Old Iron Inn Collection. If you want to stop by, get the tour, or stay overnight.